the monarch who died from overeating gold in the annals of history. There have been many strange and shocking deaths of royalty. Kings have fallen to poison, queens to plague, emperors to assassination. But perhaps no royal death has been as bizarre, as gruesome, or as symbolic of absolute power gone mad as that of Mithridates VI, known to history as Mithridates the Great, king of Pontus. This is not just a story of how a king died, but of how unlimited power, paranoia, and the very symbol of wealth itself became instruments of destruction. This is the story of the monarch who literally consumed gold until it killed him. But our tale begins not with gold, but with fear. Picture the ancient world. Around 120 BC, the Roman Republic was expanding its power across the Mediterranean, crushing kingdoms and enslaving peoples with ruthless efficiency. In the Black Sea region, in the kingdom of Pontus, a young prince named Mithridates watched his father die under mysterious circumstances. Poison was suspected administered by political enemies who sought to weaken the kingdom before Roman conquest. From that moment, the boy who would become king developed an obsession that would define his entire life and ultimately cause his death: the absolute terror of being poisoned. Mithridates VI ascended to the throne of Pontus at the age of 11, but his reign would be marked by a paranoia so intense it bordered on madness. He had witnessed how easily poison could topple a king, how a few drops of the right substance in wine or food could end a dynasty. He was determined that no one would ever poison him. But his solution was more extreme than anything history had ever recorded. Young Mithridates began consuming poison, not to kill himself, but to build immunity. Every day, he would ingest small amounts of various toxic substances: arsenic, mercury, lead compounds, and dozens of plant-based poisons. He created what he called his universal antidote, a mixture he named Mithridatium, containing over 50 different ingredients. The theory was simple. By gradually exposing his body to increasing doses of poison, he would become immune to assassination attempts. The practice nearly killed him multiple times during his youth, but slowly, impossibly, his body began to adapt. Mithridates was creating a living laboratory of toxicity within his own flesh. As he grew to manhood, his resistance to poison became legendary. Stories spread throughout the ancient world of the king who could drink arsenic like wine and laugh at assassins' attempts. But this immunity came at a terrible cost that would only become apparent decades later. Mithridates ruled Pontus for nearly 60 years, and during that time, his kingdom became one of the wealthiest in the ancient world. The Black Sea region was rich in gold, silver, and precious stones. Trade routes from Asia passed through his territories, bringing incredible wealth. But for Mithridates, wealth was not just about power, it was about survival. You see, in the ancient world, gold was not just a symbol of wealth. It was believed to have medicinal and protective properties. Alchemists and physicians prescribed gold for various ailments. The wealthy would eat from golden plates, drink from golden cups, even consumed thin sheets of gold leaf, believing it would grant them health and longevity. For Mithridates, gold became the ultimate extension of his poison immunity project. If small amounts of poison could make him stronger, if precious metals had healing properties, then surely consuming gold, the most precious metal of all, would make him invincible. Historical accounts from this period are fragmentary, but what emerges is a picture of a king whose daily routine had become a bizarre ritual of consumption. Each morning, Mithridates would take his antidote mixture, followed by carefully measured amounts of gold dust mixed into his wine. His meals were served on golden plates from which he would scrape tiny amounts of gold to mix with his food. At first, the amounts were small, a pinch of gold dust here, a shaving of gold leaf there. But as years passed and his paranoia deepened, the quantities increased. Court physicians, too terrified to contradict their king, assured him that gold was indeed beneficial to health. Some even claimed that consuming gold would make him immortal. But gold, despite its beauty and value, is not meant for human consumption. Pure gold is chemically inert, meaning it passes through the human body without being absorbed. In small amounts, it's harmless, but Mithridates was not consuming small amounts. As his fear of assassination grew, particularly as Roman armies pressed closer to his borders, his daily gold consumption became excessive. The human digestive system, no matter how adapted to toxins, cannot process large quantities of metal. Gold dust began accumulating in his intestines. Gold particles settled in his liver and kidneys. His body, strengthened against poisons, had no defense against the mechanical damage caused by metal accumulation. The symptoms began slowly. Mithridates complained of stomach pains, which his physicians attributed to stress from the ongoing wars with Rome. He experienced difficulty digesting food, which was explained as a side effect of his antidote regimen. His skin took on a slightly golden hue, which courtiers praised as a sign of his divine nature. But the king's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Modern medical knowledge tells us what was happening inside Mithridates' body. The accumulated gold was causing intestinal blockages. Metal particles were damaging the delicate tissues of his digestive organs. His liver, already stressed from decades of processing poisons, was failing under the additional burden of filtering metal particles from his blood. The final phase of his life reads like a grotesque medical nightmare. Historical sources describe a king who could barely eat solid food, who vomited blood, whose breath had a metallic taste. His courtiers whispered that he was being slowly poisoned, never suspecting that he was poisoning himself with the very symbol of his power. The irony was profound and terrible. Mithridates had spent his entire life building immunity to poison, only to be killed by his own paranoid attempts at self-protection. The gold he consumed as a shield against death became the weapon that destroyed him. But the story becomes even more tragic when we consider what was happening in the world around him. By 63 BC, Mithridates was facing his final war against Rome. The great general Pompey had been sent to end the threat of Pontus once and for all. The king's armies were in retreat, his allies were abandoning him, and his own son had rebelled against him. Everything he had built was crumbling. It was in this moment of ultimate crisis that Mithridates made a decision that would cement his place in history's most bizarre deaths. Facing certain defeat and capture by the Romans, he decided to take his own life by poison, the very method of death he had spent his lifetime trying to prevent. But here, the ultimate irony revealed itself. Mithridates gathered his most potent poisons, the same substances he had been immunizing himself against for decades. He prepared a mixture strong enough to kill a dozen men. He drank it down, expecting quick death and escape from Roman humiliation. Nothing happened. His lifetime of poison immunity had worked too well. The toxins that should have killed him in minutes had no effect. He tried again with a stronger dose. Still nothing. According to the historian Appian, Mithridates paced his chamber in frustration, the poison coursing harmlessly through his adapted body while Roman soldiers drew closer to his palace. Finally, in desperation, he turned to his bodyguard and begged the man to run him through with a sword. Unable to die by poison, unable to live with the shame of capture, the king, who had consumed gold to avoid death, was finally killed by cold steel. But the gold had already done its work. When Roman soldiers found the king's body, they discovered something unprecedented in ancient warfare. Mithridates' corpse had an unusual weight and a strange, metallic sheen to the skin. Roman physicians, examining the body, found the digestive organs packed with gold dust and particles. The stomach lining was ulcerated and golden. The liver was enlarged and had a distinctive metallic coloration. The Romans, practical as always, melted down the gold they found in the king's body. Historical accounts suggest they recovered nearly 2 pounds of pure gold from his organs, a fortune in ancient terms, and a testament to the scale of his self-destructive consumption. The story of Mithridates spread throughout the ancient world and became a cautionary tale about the dangers of absolute power and paranoia. But it also revealed something deeper about human nature and our relationship with wealth and power. Gold, throughout history, has represented the ultimate in human desire. We have killed for it, died for it, built empires, and destroyed civilizations in pursuit of it. For Mithridates, gold represented safety, power, and even immortality. He consumed it literally, making it part of his flesh, believing it would protect him from his enemies. But in trying to become one with gold, he discovered that some things are more powerful than human desire. The very substance he thought would save him became his destroyer. The metal that symbolized his power became the instrument of his weakness. Modern toxicologists studying historical accounts of Mithridates' death have concluded that he likely died from what we now call heavy metal poisoning, specifically gold toxicity. While pure gold is generally safe in small amounts, the quantities he was consuming would have caused severe gastrointestinal damage, organ failure, and eventually death. The symptoms described by ancient historians, the stomach pain, the metallic taste, the golden skin tone, the vomiting of blood all match what we know about heavy metal poisoning. Mithridates had essentially turned his own body into a gold mine, and like all mining operations, it eventually exhausted the environment it depended on. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of this story is how it reflects eternal human truths. Mithridates' fear of poison led him to consume poison. His desire for protection led him to destroy himself. His pursuit of invincibility made him ultimately vulnerable. The king who ate gold represents something universal about power and paranoia. How often do our attempts to protect ourselves become the very things that harm us? How often does our fear of death lead us to stop truly living? In our modern world, we might not consume literal gold, but we certainly consume symbols of wealth and power in ways that can be just as destructive. We work ourselves to death pursuing financial security. We sacrifice relationships for material success. We consume status symbols and luxury goods, thinking they will protect us from life's uncertainties. Mithridates' golden death reminds us that there is no immunity from life's fundamental uncertainties. No amount of wealth, power, or preparation can guarantee safety from fate. Sometimes, the very things we think will save us are the things that destroy us. The kingdom of Pontus died with Mithridates. The Romans absorbed his territories, scattered his people, and melted down his golden palaces for coin. But the story of the king who died from eating gold lived on, passed down through generations as both historical fact and moral lesson. Today, if you visit Turkey and explore the ruins of ancient Pontus, you might find traces of gold in the soil remnants of a kingdom built on precious metal. But you won't find any trace of the man who tried to make gold part of his very being. Mithridates the Great, the king who couldn't be poisoned, who built immunity to every toxin known to the ancient world, died because he forgot that sometimes the greatest enemy is not external poison, but our own internal hunger for things that cannot truly satisfy us. The gold he consumed, particle by particle, day by day, year after year, became both his crown and his grave. In seeking to become golden, he became nothing at all.